evening, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, we want to thank you for coming out for this. I go through Prince George's County and other counties in the state of Maryland. I find that one of the things our constituents, our voters are concerned about is where do the candidates stand on what affects our community. This is why these forums are so important. So many of the voters are voting by sight and not by education. Education is key. We need to know where our candidates stand on certain issues. And I really appreciate all of the candidates coming out tonight. I appreciate all of you coming out tonight, and on behalf of the Prince George's County Southern Christian Leadership Conference, we're not going to hold you, I'm not going to hold you. I want to say thank you, and we look forward to everything that will be presented here tonight. What about y'all? Y'all ready?
Okay. Thank you so much for the encouraging words, and we're ready to get started. Are you guys ready? Yeah. All right. Let's get it. Okay, so you know how to handle this. You know to watch for the signs. We're going to have signs. Would you show them the signs to indicate when you're stopping, when you have 1 minute, when you have 30 seconds, okay? And so everyone gets the fair amount of time. So please try not to go over. If you want to say additional comments to the questions, you can save them for closing statements. Okay? All right, so why don't we get started by having 3-minute introductions. We'll start with our first candidate.
I got lucky number one.
Number one. Okay.
My lucky number.
Great. And so each of you will have a total of 3 minutes to do your opening statements. What makes you comfortable? If you want to sit there, you can. Are you comfortable there?
Yes.
Okay.
Tell me when to start. Good evening. My name is Jocelyn Pena Milnick. It is a very long name. Just remember Pena Milnick, the hyphenated name. And I am actually a Prince George's County delegate. I have served in the Maryland House of Delegates for 9 years. So for the last 9 years, I have represented 2 counties, Prince George's County and Anne Arundel County. I am running for the 4th congressional seat, which is both Prince George's and Anne Arundel. I'm running because I want to make government work for you. It's what I've done for 9 years. For 9 years, I have listened to your struggles. I have worked on finding solutions for those struggles. And I know the community quite well. I am originally from the Dominican Republic. I came to this country when I was 8 years old with my mom. She was a single mom, and my sister. My sister and I are 11 months apart. When she came to this country in New York City, she was on welfare. Okay, she didn't speak the language, she was on welfare, she was on food stamps. We lived on Section 8, and she struggled. But I saw her work hard and instill those values in me. She didn't even study she wasn't even in school. I wouldn't even say she did the 3rd grade because she could not read and write very well. But education was so important for her, and she instilled those values in my sister and I. After a while, she got off welfare and she found work. She worked at different factories. I went on to college. I'm the first one to graduate college in my family. After college, I went on to law school. But I have always had a love for service. And everything I've done my entire life has been public service. I was a public defender where I learned about the disparity and the treatment that people of color, that we suffer. I learned about the differences in sentences. I learned that if you don't have a good lawyer and you cannot pay a good lawyer, you will not get good representation. I decided to become a public defender and then a prosecutor. I worked with Eric Holder. And there I had a lot more options to give people a break so they wouldn't have a conviction when they deserved it. After a while, I decided to become involved in the community when I had my children and represent the community with different issues. I ran for office. In the House of Delegates, I have supported minimum wage. I voted for it. I supported equal pay for women. We should be paid equally if we do the same job. All right? I'm one of a handful, I'm very independent, that voted against casinos. A handful. All right? I'm progressive. I work for women. I sit on the health committee. I am the chair of the Public Health and Minority Disparity Committee. And I do a lot of work on breast cancer, on childhood obesity, on disparities when it comes to diabetes and heart disease. And I'm the right candidate, and I hope I have your vote because I'm tough and I work hard, and I will be representing your needs. Thank you so much.
Hey, good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? I'm retired Colonel Warren Christopher. And I tell you, I've traveled around this district for the last 3 years. I've seen and heard from the people about the disparities in education. I've spent plenty of time with seniors and heard about the consistent rising of rents and the lack of supplemental nutrition and assistance. Many of our seniors getting $12 to $16 a month in food stamps, which is not enough money to take care of anybody. I have 2 daughters. I've heard from them and other women about the disparities in pay, about them not being able to make their own choices regardless of what those choices are, about them being able to break the glass ceiling and to work in any environment that they choose to work in. I'm originally from Alabama. I was raised by my grandmother. And I would just tell you, that's why I'm so passionate about seniors. I joined the military right out of high school. I enlisted in the Army. I went on to gain a scholarship, and the Army sent me to Purdue University to get my degree. I got a commission in the Army, and 25 years later, I will be promoted to colonel, lieutenant colonel. You all, this is about making sure that we have a proven and tested leader. I've taken troops into combat more than 7 different times, and under my leadership, I brought every troop home alive. I raised my 2 daughters as a single dad. My 2 daughters are thriving today. My youngest daughter, Ashley, is at Hampton University, and my oldest daughter attended Morgan State, and she's a small business owner today. I've worked in the United States Senate on very important programs concerning small business. I've seen how legislation is prepared and how it becomes a bill on veteran affairs issues, on issues concerning small business, on issues concerning our national defense and security. I've worked as a senior executive in the United States government, as the chief of staff at the Department of the Interior, in charge of more than $57 billion in prime government contracts, procurement and acquisitions, which is more than this state's budget. When it comes down to what I believe here for our district, you all, in my opinion, for so many years, we voted the same way, we've gotten the same results, and it is time for fresh vision and fresh leadership in this district. I've come to the table with the real prerequisites to deliver that leadership and that service to you. I am 100%, and I look forward to the further discussion about being a champion for our seniors, our returning citizens, our college students, our veterans and their families, and our minority-owned small businesses, so we can all get access and opportunity. If we truly listen to the Pledge of Allegiance, it's about liberty and justice for all, not just for a few of us. And so I look forward to this debate. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Terrence Strait, and I am probably by quite a bit the youngest candidate running for this office. And that gives me a little bit of a different perspective on the problems that are facing this country. I don't have the resume that the other candidates have. I'm the first to admit that. But I make up for that in vision. I have a vision for the future of this country, where we have clean energy, where we have health care for all, where we don't have people living on the streets. We have 16 million houses sitting vacant across the country, and people are homeless. That makes no sense to me. We shouldn't have anybody homeless. We talk a lot about veterans, but we should be talking about all of our people. We should not have people who have to decide whether they're going to have electricity or food in a given month. We're better than that. Now, we have a lot of talk from Democrats and Republicans about how great the United States is. And I believe that we can be and we should be great. But that means providing health care for all of our people. It means that if you work full-time, you don't live in poverty. It means that we have the most up-to-date, advanced infrastructure in the world. We shouldn't have trains that are going half the speed as other countries and wrecking because the rails won't support them. That's ridiculous. We should be investing in our infrastructure. We should be investing in our cities. We should be investing in our people. And we should be following the science. When we have new developments, we should adopt them. We have one of the slowest responding governments imaginable. I mean, if you've been watching the presidential elections and watching the turnout and how we have a process that even when turnout is lower than it was in 2008, people still can't deal with that. People waiting hours in line to vote, not having enough ballots for everyone who shows up. That's not acceptable to me. And I believe that, first off, I'm a very quick learner. So I'm able to gain the experience that I'm going to need to get things done. But beyond that, I have a vision that I believe would be the best for the United States. And when you go on a road trip, it's good to know how to drive a car. That's important. But you have to know where you're going. So because I do have that vision for a future, and I have the will to fight and bring that vision to fruition, regardless of the path that we take to get there, I believe that I deserve your vote. Thank you.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. Let me start by thanking the Southern Christian Leadership Council Conference and Bowie State University, the Student Government Association for hosting tonight's forum. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out and demonstrating a real interest and commitment to democracy and the civic engagement that all of us have a responsibility to participate in. I also want to thank my fellow candidates, all of whom love this state, love this country, and would look forward to this opportunity to serve in the United States Congress. I'm a first-generation American. My father came to this country out of poverty in Kingston, Jamaica. My mother from the foothills in the Swiss Alps. They came here not only for a better way of life for their family, but to make a contribution to the greatness that is this country. I saw my father as a doctor serving in some of the poorest hospitals in some of the poorest neighborhoods near where I grew up. I said, I want to be like my father. Didn't go to medical school, went to law school, but I wanted to dedicate myself to service. I had the opportunity to spend 30 years in the United States Army and Army Reserve. I went to Iraq with a lot of patriotic men and women, some of whom did not return home when I had the opportunity to come home. I had the opportunity to serve in the Maryland General Assembly, and recently as your Lieutenant Governor. I'm running for Congress because I love this country, I love this state, and I love the communities around this state. We've got strong communities, but I'm running for Congress because we need to strengthen our communities. Because with strong communities, we support strong families. We'll strengthen our communities when we ensure economic security for every family. That means different things for different families. Maybe it's raising the minimum wage, maybe it's protecting Social Security and Medicare, and maybe it includes creating good family supporting jobs. We'll strengthen our community when we expand educational opportunities. For some, that means pre-K for all Maryland 4-year-olds. For others, supporting President Obama's community tuition-free community college. And for others who aren't going to Bowie State University, but need to be able to have a family supporting job, that means more career technology education in our schools. We'll strengthen our communities when we improve the safety in our neighborhoods. We are not going to arrest and incarcerate our way to safer neighborhoods. We're going to do it through education and opportunities. And finally, I'm running for Congress because not to protect President Obama's legacy, because that's rearward looking, but to build on President Obama's accomplishments. He saved our economy. He expanded health care to more and more Americans. He made college more affordable. We need to expand on that. We need to ensure the Republicans in Congress do not turn back the clock on that progress, and we need to make sure that those accomplishments make it here to the 4th Congressional District. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Glenn Ivey. I'm a former state's attorney here in Prince George's County. I'm originally from Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and I lived there back in the 60s. It was still segregated. Both of my parents had grown up in the town. We lived across the street from Booker T. Washington High School, so you know what side of town we lived on. And they'd both gone to school there. The house we lived in was a house built by my father and my grandfather. They were both brick masons. My father would work, and then he would help work on building the house after he was done with the day. I know sometimes I have long days. I think about the work they put in to make those things happen. I realize I got it pretty good. And at the same time, Dad had served in the Air Force, and he used that to go to school on the GI Bill. So this is a wonderful HBCU here. My mother went to Virginia State. My father went to Shaw University. I understand firsthand how important HBCUs are and the need to make sure we continue to fund them. In fact, improve the funding to make sure that they can continue the tradition of education that they've started. So I had a chance to do these things and have an opportunity to get build on the values that I learned in Rocky Mount, where you better be home by the time the streetlights came on. Yep. And if you weren't, everybody in town had, they could all, you talk about it takes a village. That was the type of village that we need to get back to. Yeah. So we had a chance to go to school. My parents sent me to Princeton as an undergraduate, and I had a chance to go to Harvard Law School after that. Schools that they wouldn't even have had a shot to go at until the Civil Rights Movement came along. And I'm thankful for the changes that I saw happen, so thankful that it made me want to try and go into public service as well. And that's partly how I got on this track. Now, I had a chance to work as an assistant federal prosecutor under Eric Holder. He was the U.S. attorney there for 2 years, and I watched the things that he did working in D.C. This is during the height of the crack wars. This is 450 to 500 murders a year. And a lot of the things he did, I brought out to Prince George's County when I became state's attorney. So yes, we had tough prosecutions. We had homicides drop by 45% while I was state's attorney. But at the same time, I realized, you know what? The first-time nonviolent offenders out there, we can't jail our way out of all of these problems. Let's try a different approach. So we tried intervention and prevention programs. We tried outreach and reentry efforts. So guys who were coming out actually had a transition plan to try and get right so they'd get off the revolving door of reoffending. And we also did outreach to schools. We had a second grade reader program where we had volunteers come out using the faith community support. We had a mentoring program at Fairmount Heights High School where we had tutors come in, again volunteer, and help to get these kids either on the right track or stay on the right track. We did all of those things without using tax dollars. We were able to do the tough prosecution and also reach out to the community and make things work in the right way, building on the community values and the strengths that we have right here in Prince George's County. So I look forward to being able to discuss these issues at more length. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and I look forward to an extended conversation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Broadus, and my job tonight is to come here and win a few converts, because I'm going to guess we don't have a whole lot of Republicans in the room, do we? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. So I want to tell you why you should vote Republican. Now, I've got a list here, and most of you can't see it, but it's got some names on it. I wonder if any of you all know these names. Hiram Rhodes Rebels, Joseph Hain Rainey, Romualdo Pacheco, Octaviano Lorenzana, Jeanette Rankin, Hiram Long Fong, Charles Curtis. All of these people were firsts. The first two were the first blacks in the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. The second were the first Hispanics who had a vote in the House of Representatives and the Senate. Jeanette Rankin, first woman. Hiram Long Fong, first Asian. Charles Curtis, first Native American, not only in the House and the Senate, but also vice president. And of course, the first Republican president ever, Abraham Lincoln. We need to know this history because we've taken an approach that the Republican Party is something we can't support, something that we need to be afraid of. But the Republican Party has fought for our community, for people like you and me, from its very founding. And the only reason there aren't a whole lot of people like you and me in the party is because we don't give them a fair shot. We don't consider them, and most importantly, we don't join and try to make it do what we want it to do for ourselves. So it's time we stop just giving our votes to that other party. That party, of course, which stood against emancipation. That party which stood against the Civil Rights Act. The party which stood against ending segregation. I stand for those values. Mr. Ivey mentioned that he went to Booker T. Washington School. Booker T. Washington stood for those same values I stand for. Advancing the race through hard work, determination, individual responsibility, and faith in God. These are the things that we can achieve, and I look for your vote in November. Thank you.
Just interrupting everybody else. My name is George McDermott. I'm a 70-year resident of Prince George's County. I was born right down the street here in Bowie, Maryland, Old Bowie. I go by it every so often to see what life was like and what I missed when I was a youngster. We'll never go back to that time. We'll never go back to the time of trust that we had in that era. It's all gone. All the values that I grew up with, they're gone. I took my children. I've been a lifelong resident of Prince George's County. I've built multiple businesses in Prince George's County. And for the last 23 years, I've been an advocate for victims' rights, not only in Prince George's County, but anywhere that there's a victim. I have roughly 1,100 programs on my website that show what I fight for, who I fight for. I noticed we had 3 lawyers here today already. How many people here? What? Okay. How many people here are aware that our courts have become so abusive to the Constitution? Right now they're trying to pass legislation in the House to divest you of your vote for judges. The Democratic Party has already cut it down to where rather than have a judge come from the outside and get elected, the judge retires a month before he's supposed to. The Democratic Party reappoints the judge. So you have a 90% controlled judgeship in the state of Maryland. Is that going to treat you fairly? No. Anytime you have a monopoly, the monopoly will take advantage of you. Our rights and our liberties are being stolen from us every day by corruption in the courts. Anthony Brown, and Glenn, I have both sent them numerous requests asking one question. Could either one of you gentlemen identify the constitutional amendment to the Constitution of the State of Maryland or the United States Constitution that allows our courts of appeals, federal courts of appeals, and the Supreme Court of the United States to issue unsigned orders that they will not authenticate or validate? You both learned. Well, all the orders that come out of the Court of Appeals all the orders that come out of the Court of Appeals of Maryland are unsigned, and they will not authenticate or validate. So, I thank you, but I stand for justice for all, not justice for some.
Excuse me, moderator, can you please remind us all of the rules? Thank you.
I'm sorry. Sometimes we get excited. So just to keep in mind that we have to be fair to all candidates, and please do not make reference to another candidate via the name or via position. You may speak to what you think that you can do, but not the other candidate. So out of all fairness, let's keep it rolling. Okay. And if it happens again, we'll just stop you in the mix. Okay. All right. So we're going to start the process with the questions. And the first question, of course, is going to be by Jolene. Sorry for picking on you, always being first, but you happen, Jocelyn, I'm sorry. You happen to be in that most comfortable seat next to me, so.
I have number one.
I'm sorry,
Jocelyn.
Okay.
So good.
Okay, so Jocelyn is going to answer the first question. After Jocelyn answers, each candidate will answer the first question. You all will have an opportunity to answer the same question. The next question will start with Christopher. After he answers, everybody will answer the same questions. So we have more than enough questions. Your questions you will be able to spend 2 minutes per question. And we will time you appropriately as we did for your introductions. Okay? Any nervousness? You all set? Ready to go? Okay, so we're going to start with Jolene.
Come on now, Jolene.
I'm sorry. And it's right here,
It's okay.
I keep saying Jolene.
Jocelyn.
We'll be here way past 8 if you bring Jolene down here, I tell you.
So
Jocelyn.
just remember, that's a good name.
On April 26th, remember Jocelyn.
I am so sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. You have a good spirit, so thank you.
That's great.
Okay. Jocelyn?
Yes.
Okay. The first question to all candidates. Why should an independent voter support your candidacy? Okay?
Thank you. I can sit seated. I think that an independent voter should support my candidacy because I have proven for the last 9 years in the Maryland House of Delegates that I am independent many, many times. I am a very active member of the Black Caucus and the Latino Caucus and Women Caucus, and there have been instances where I had to get up on the floor and go against leadership, and I'm not afraid to do that. When I ran 9 years ago for the House of Delegates, I ran on my own against 2 tickets. And that has given me the freedom to be independent and fight for what is right and for our struggles. In addition to that, I am one of just a handful that voted against the trim, removing the cap, when there were only 2 people, 2 of us that voted against that. And I took that stand because it was the right thing to do out of the entire Prince George's County delegation. I'm not afraid to go ahead and challenge leadership. I have gone and I have sat outside Mike Miller's office for an hour and a half when he refused to see me when I was trying to advocate for people's rights, the rights against being discriminated when they're applying for jobs, employment, and applying for credit. I'm someone that comes with the background of having been a lawyer, but I'm someone that comes from a single mom household that I saw her struggle, that she said to me, when I die, I'm not gonna leave you anything. I don't have anything to leave you, but you're gonna get an education. And that has afforded me the flexibility. Being educated is so important because it opens so many doors for you. But it has afforded me the flexibility to be passionate, to fight hard, and to be able to represent my constituency. And that's what I will do for you in the 4th. Okay, I don't owe anyone anything but you. I will answer to you. I will be available to you. Can I legislate? Yes. I pass over 50 bills. Am I able to take a stand when it's not popular? Absolutely, because it's the right thing to do. I told myself the second week I was there that I would never vote depending on whether people will bring me back or not. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, as I reflect over my 30-year career, You know, commanding our American sons and daughters in harm's way, I commanded Democrats, independents, and Republicans alike. And it was about getting the mission accomplished. And every single time we got the mission accomplished. When I served as the Chief of Staff at the Department of the Interior, leading a workforce of more than 80,000 folks and a major budget, more than $57 billion, it was about leading as a leader. It wasn't about political affiliation. And we got the mission accomplished. When I worked in the United States Senate, I worked for U.S. senators, both Republicans and Democrats, on very important programs, again, concerning our veterans, concerning small business, and concerning national defense and security. I've had the experience of working around the world in defense of our nation, building strong coalitions of multinational forces, Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike. This is about getting the mission accomplished. And also, another reason that an independent should vote for me is because I don't believe in raising taxes anymore on our working class families, people that are struggling to survive. Today, we have more people in the lower class and upper class than we have in the middle class. So that's why an independent should also vote for me. Independents should also vote for me because I understand how to keep us safe here at home. I understand how to make sure that our issues are represented here in this community. Independents should vote for me because this is about representation for our community, to be bold for the issues that are important for this community. You know, a representative in Congress is responsible for three major things: bringing home our fair share of federal resources, constituent services, and legislating in the best interest of our district. So whether it's concerning our veterans or our seniors, our young professionals, college students, our women, this is about getting the mission accomplished.
I would say that independents are my natural constituency. In my experience, the independents I've spoken with are kind of tired of both parties, Democrats and Republicans, being beholden to corporate interests. They're not independents because, you know, that there's an independent platform that they're attracted to. They're independent because they don't see a platform that attracts them. They want somebody who's going to stand up to the big interests and represent them, and they don't see that. And that's something that, as somebody who is relatively new to politics, I can do. I don't have these relationships with different organizations that are funding my campaign. My campaign is funded almost entirely by small donors, plus a little bit from myself. So when I say that I'm going to go in there and I'm going to stand up for you, there's nobody that I'm going to face pressure from that I'm going to say, well, I need to get elected in my next election. Because I will have been elected the first time because of you, not because of them. Additionally, I would like to also say that for independents, because Maryland is a closed primary state, whoever you decide to support, whether it's me or someone else, I would encourage you to register as the party of for the person that you want to support, and make sure you vote in the primaries, because that's something that a lot of people forget to do. They show up in November, but then they don't vote in the primaries. And that is every bit as important. That's how we see, that's how the Tea Party took over. That's how they took over the Republican Party, is they primaried more establishment Republicans, and we see some rather extreme results from that. So I think whoever you're going to support, make sure and support them in the primary as well as the general. Thank you.
Thank you. An independent should vote for me for the same reason that a Democrat and Republican should vote for me. Because every voter wants to see a member of Congress who's going to deliver results. Congress handles a lot of difficult issues. 435 members of Congress coming from different geographic, demographic, socioeconomic backgrounds. Same values, different perspectives. I want to give you two examples. If I have time, maybe it'll just be one. How I can deliver results and bring people with competing interests together. My cousin Kathy was killed in 2008 by her estranged boyfriend. Shot in front of two Montgomery County police officers who in turn shot and killed him. At the time I was Lieutenant Governor, I said to Governor O'Malley, I want to take up the issue of domestic violence on behalf of this administration. He says, great, work with the legislature. I sat down with the advocates. I said, what's the biggest issue that we can address this year? They said, for 10 years, we've tried to pass a bill, 10 years, and we failed to give judges the authority to order abusers to surrender their firearms when the judge issues a protective order. Well, you can imagine on the far right, don't touch my guns, mostly Republicans, were not supporting that bill. Progressives, Democrats, very supportive and had been for 10 years. Independents, moderates in the middle, they liked it with a little bit of tweaking. After 10 years, we finally got the bill together, passed. Because we brought together law enforcement, we brought together victim advocates, we brought together the community, and Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, after 10 years, finally passed a bill that gives judges in Maryland the authority to order domestic abusers to surrender their firearms when they issue a protective order. That's delivering results. It's not for independents. It's not for Democrats. It's not for Republicans. It's for each and every one of us and the safety in our neighborhoods.
I'm seeing a different world in Washington than I see in Annapolis. Today, the Republicans in the Senate announced that no matter who Barack Obama nominates for the Supreme Court, they won't even have a hearing, much less a vote. So, you want to talk about trying to work with people. They came out and said, we don't care what you say. We're not going to work with you. We're not even going to consider who you propose. And that's just the most recent example. You look at Obamacare, the House where we're trying to go, 62 votes to repeal Obamacare. They don't care about fixing it. They don't want to have a conversation about it. They don't even allow amendments to be proposed on the floor. It's all a show for the red meat they're trying to throw for their constituents back home. And it's not just there. We could go on and on with the types of things that they're talking about today. Remember when he gave the State of the Union a couple years ago and somebody jumped up and screamed liar at him? Yeah. Did you see the State of the Union this year when he announced a task force to try and fight against cancer, and the Republicans couldn't even clap their hands in support of fighting against cancer? Remember that? Yes. That's where we are today. So if you're an independent and you want to try and work with a group that's going to have values, we're going to try and make things better for the middle class. We're going to try and give people a leg up that are struggling, to reentry programs to get people out, an economy that actually works for everybody and gives people a chance to find jobs. I'm your guy. But I tell you what, if you're with Donald Trump, watch the Republican debates. Take a look at the stuff that they're saying. If you can sit through it, Trump, Cruz, they're trying to, we're going to ban Muslims from coming into the country. I can't work with that. I'm going to fight against that. And if you give me a chance to go to Washington, I promise that's exactly what I'll do every day I'm there. If there'll be a time we can compromise on reasonable values, great. But they've made it clear that they're not interested in compromise, and I'll fight against that.
Well, independents should vote for me because, quite frankly, if you don't, there's no way I can win. Statewide, Democrats are about half of the electorate, Republicans are a quarter, and non-affiliated are a quarter. And even in that circumstance, a Republican candidate needs independent votes to win. They need crossover Democrat votes to win. It's even that much more serious here in the 4th Congressional District, which has been gerrymandered. It's not as badly gerrymandered as it was in 2008 when Al Wynn was the representative, but it is still gerrymandered to favor the Democrat candidate. But one thing we need to recognize is that the U.S. Constitution, is the rule book. It's a rule book we all swear an oath to. It's a rule book we all must go by. There is a process that must be followed when the president nominates someone for the federal bench or his cabinet, and then that person must be confirmed. And we go through that process. we shouldn't jump to conclusions beforehand. We should go through the process, and I'm entirely for the process. But I also want to address the fact that neither party has been working for us. If you go talk to the Republican Central Committee, I'm not popular there. Go talk to the Democrats, I'm not popular among them. I, like you, am a citizen fighting for my rights, and I will fight for your rights. In 2003, George W. Bush took us to war in Iraq against the will of the American people with Al Wynn's vote. I got involved in the 4th Congressional District politics to fight that. Donna Edwards has continued to support war, and even Barack Obama. Bombed Libya, bombed Syria. I will fight against it.
Well, in order for me to win, I have to have support both Democrat and Independent and Republican. And everybody should look past those labels. Those labels are hindrances to the betterment of our nation. You have to look past. It's your duty. It's the duty of everybody in this audience to investigate and learn about the standing of your candidate that you're about to vote for. Don't walk into the voting booth and just go click, 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 click. We're all Democrats. We're going to vote for everybody. You're not doing this to yourself or the nation or the county or the city you live in any good unless you educate yourself as to the importance of knowing the candidate that you are going to support or your neighbor you might suggest to vote for you. We have troubling times here in the United States right now. This Constitution, our leaders in government right now do not adhere to the Constitution. They do not pay attention to the Constitution and the rule of law. I fight for, my primary fight is to restore the rights and liberties of all citizens, that they have equal access to the courts, they have due process rights, and they have equal access to a standard of living that all of us should enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second question will start with our next candidate, Mr. Warren Christopher. But before we start with the questions, I'd certainly like to welcome Mr. Matthew Fall to the platform. Thank you. Joseline, you get a break. Okay, the question reads, please explain how your experience has better prepared you for Congress versus other candidates being offered the same opportunity in Congress.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. You all, we have for so many years voted the same way, and we've gotten the same results from establishment politicians. And in the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, when are we going to be sick and tired of being sick and tired? When are we going to be sick and tired of being sick and tired that our seniors don't have the basic resources that they need? A lot of people talk about what they've done. Our seniors still don't have legislation to protect against rent control. We have more veterans in this district, and we still have more homeless veterans right here in this district than any other district in the state of Maryland. We have a highest rate of foreclosures here in the state of Maryland. We talk about, I didn't come here to bring you doom and gloom, but I came to keep it real with you because it's time out for all the sugarcoating. We pay a greater degree or a higher amount of taxes in this district, principally in Prince George's County, but we get the fewest amount of amenities.
Yes.
We have, whether it's foreclosures, whether it's incarceration or recidivism, whether it's black women in this district, particularly in Prince George's County, has the highest rate of breast cancer fatalities than anyone else in the region. We have the highest rate of unemployment. my experience has prepared me because I am beholden to the people that I am seeking to represent. You see, I understand what it means to die for something. I'm so determined to represent your needs and your interests, even if I have to die for it. And I understand fully about what that's all about. I've worked in the United States Senate. I understand how legislation is prepared and become a bill. I've been there in the federal government. I've led major business enterprise for the federal government to make sure that our residents, particularly our small businesses, get access and opportunity. I've led troops into harm's way. I understand their needs, and I've been a father to my 2 daughters, so I understand the issues important to women.
Maryland is the 13th state I've lived in. And I'm going to be turning 35 in April, so I've gotten around a little bit. And I think a lot of people forget that although we are here we're seeking to represent you, we're seeking to represent you in governing the United States as a nation. We're not just going to say, what can I get for District 4? We're saying, how do we make this a better country for all of us? One nation, indivisible. So I think my experience of having lived so many different places will help me to realize how the needs of the 4th District fit into a cohesive whole for the needs of the country. I've been all over the economic spectrum. I grew up in an upper middle class home. Both my parents made 6 figures. My parents were not willing to help pay for me to go to college, so I joined the Army and put myself through school. Got my bachelor's degree and my master's degree in psychology. I was unemployed for a year after that. There was a time where I had to stay with friends because I was homeless. I got offered a job here at the U.S. Census Bureau down in Suitland, and I was a statistician there. So I got to see the kind of work that our federal government does and how everyday people, federal employees, are hurt by the type of partisan gamesmanship that goes on in Washington. When we had the government shutdown in 2013, we went for more than 2 weeks not knowing if we were going to go to work the next day, not knowing when we were going to get our next paycheck. Now, fortunately, they gave us back pay, but we didn't know that was coming. We didn't know when it was coming. So my experience enables me to represent all kinds of different people and also to govern the country as a whole. Thank you.
A number of us on this stage have been in the military. A number of us on this stage have worked in the legislature. A number of us on this stage have been in the executive branch of government. A number of us on this stage have worked in the private sector, with private sector businesses. I believe I am the only one that has done all 4 of those. And why is that important? Again, the work that happens in Congress is complicated. And delivering results for your constituents requires a broad base of experience. I want to go to Congress with my experience to build on the achievements of President Obama. He announced 2 years ago an initiative for tuition-free community college. That's key, because we know that no longer can a high school diploma secure a family-supporting job. I served as chairman of the board of Prince George's Community College. I understand the work of the community college. I want to build on the achievements of President Obama. You can call it Obamacare if you like that, or call it the Affordable Care Act. But one thing we know that under President Obama's leadership, we've expanded health care to millions of Americans. Republicans want to repeal and replace it. I led the effort in Maryland. I got the scars to prove it, to implement the Affordable Care Act. You remember that story. And in Maryland, it was quite a success story. We had some rocky moments, but talk to that parent now whose college-age kid still has health care. Talk to the single mom right now who's got health coverage. Talk to the cancer survivor who now has health insurance, notwithstanding that she had a pre-existing condition. I'm not going to let the Republicans repeal and replace. We're going to build on those achievements. So you need someone in Congress who's got a breadth of experience, has rolled up their sleeves to deliver results, because that's what the residents of the 4th Congressional District deserve.
Well, I actually have congressional experience with working with people who actually have delivered before. And a lot of the things, a lot of the battles we're fighting right now, we fought back in those days. So in 1987, I went to work for Congressman John Conyers. And guess what we were working on? He signed me to deal with the Motor Voter Act. And that was to expand the ability for people to vote. And here we are 30 years later. They're trying to retrench it state after state. It's a national strategy by the Republican Party. We're fighting the same fights, but I've already done it, and I understand the legislation and the things we need to do to expand it. The 5% minority goal was another one that Congressman Conyers rolled out, and the goal there was to help minority businesses finally get a chance to participate and compete for contracts from the Department of Defense. The $1 trillion that they spend every year, minority businesses weren't getting a part of it. We still don't get as much as we should. We're still fighting that fight today, and we need to keep pushing with it. The 8A program was another piece of that. The Reagan administration tried to just repeal the whole thing. We don't even want to help minority business have a shot at it. We fought, we defended the program, it's still in place, and it's helping minority businesses be successful today. Redlining, I went to work for Senator Sarbanes later on in my career. Redlining was an issue. I was on the Senate Banking Committee. Banks were excluding investment from critical areas. Guess one of the key study areas? Prince George's County. The CRA Act allowed us to continue to make sure investment was going to come here. We fought to preserve that then. We'll do it again when I get a chance to go to Congress. With Senator Daschle, raising the minimum wage was a key thing that we did in the 1998 Senate cycle. They said it couldn't happen. We made it happen. We need to raise the minimum wage right now because you can work 2 or 3 jobs and still not have enough to keep a roof over your head. We've got to fight to make that change. I've done it before and I can do it again. And expanding healthcare was the last piece that we worked on. Obamacare is critical. It's done a great job. We've got 30 more people to cover. Thank you.
I believe it was John Adams who said something like 2 men is an argument, 3 is a law firm, and 4 or more is a Congress. So I guess we qualify as a Congress here. But my experience is in fighting for the rights of the people. I've been involved in Washington, D.C. during all of these healthcare debates. I've been involved in opposition to our wars, our unconstitutional wars. I've been involved in going to Annapolis and talking to many of the people on this stage and many of the people who just really don't seem to care what the people in Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County feel about their laws and what is being imposed upon them. Because if they did, they wouldn't be passing these laws. If they did, they would be listening to the ministers, to the business leaders, to the mothers and the fathers and the children and saying, we're going to do what you want. But instead they listen to the lobbyists. Instead they listen to the big money. And again, I've been a lobbyist for the people because I don't have big money, but I go there and I fight for what people tell me they want. And that is the experience we need in Congress. We've got a lot of career politicians, and they want to keep being career politicians. They want to keep getting paid by you. I promise, if I'm elected, I'll keep taking my current salary. Don Edwards makes a lot more. I'll take the difference and donate it to whatever charities you, the people, tell me to, because I'll be listening to you. That's the kind of congressperson I think we need.
Well, I'll take it from a different point. When you go to Congress, you're one of 435 members of Congress, 100 members of the Senate. We stand up every year, 22nd of the month of January, take an oath of office. Nobody adheres to that oath of office anymore. Nobody. And what do we do as citizens? We're looking the other way, saying, well, I hope that somebody will do something. But until we hold our government accountable, it's called the Honest Services Doctrine. You know, if you're supposed to do something, if you swear an oath of office to uphold and defend the laws of the state, to uphold and defend the rights of your citizens, your constituents, to uphold and defend the rights of our future generations by taking care of the planet that we're on and not allowing it to be destroyed by corporate interests and corporate special interests, then it's time that the citizens, when they go into the voting pool this year, you go in there and you educate yourself about who will best serve this nation in the next 2 years. That's what you got. You got a 2-year term. Who is going to take care of our best interest? I have a long history of fighting against corruption and fraud within the court system in Maryland, which I believe is the second most corrupt in the nation, according to all statistics. I don't say it lightly. I know that if you go to my website, I can prove that I have many businesses that have been stolen from me by judges in the county. Harris Glendenning put into office 108 judges.
That's like a way of ending it. Stop. The reason why I'm running for Congress is because I've been tried and tested and proved. I'm a 32-year veteran United States Marshal. I also grew up in Washington, D.C., part of the Civil Rights Movement. And I begin to realize one of the things about Congress when you go up that hill, and I'm being a federal employee, I've gone up on Capitol Hill, we've got a bill through Congress, a notification, Federal Anti-Discrimination Retaliation Act. I was part of getting that bill through Congress. But what I see over and over as a resident of this area is that we are going down on a slippery slope, especially the residents when we talk about District 4. All we have done is decline. And when I listen, I am not a politician. I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm an activist. That's me. And when I had an opportunity to show who I was in the federal government, I took on the United States Department of Justice. I had a lot of politicians. I had a lot of people tell me, Paul, whatever you do, don't take on the Justice Department. You got all of the things that right. You're a tall man, you fit the part, you even got the boy step away from the vehicle. But once again, when you're telling people and you're saying to them, somebody has to take a stand. So all I'm saying to you is when you look at my record, you're going to see somebody that took on the Justice Department, and not did I just take them on, but I won. And when I went all the way and proved that discrimination is alive and well, and ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with race discrimination in so many ways. That's why we're at the end of every totem pole. And we have to stop and we have to understand. We got to say to ourselves, when do we put people in Congress that's going to make a difference? I will make a difference for you. Thank you.
I came to this country chasing the American dream with my mom. I saw her struggle. I went to college under the Equal Opportunity Program, which was a state program that would pay for my tuition. I had to just pay for my dorm. I know the struggles of this community because I have lived it. I bring a perspective that none of them bring here. As a woman, as an immigrant, as someone that is first to go to college, first to go to law school, as someone that has been legislating for 9 years. And look, let's be honest. You can't get much done in Congress right now because we will be the minority. However, if you call my office, would I be there for you? It's what I've done for 9 years. When that veteran calls my office and says, I cannot have access to my benefits, can you help me? Would I call the right agency? Yes. When someone who's losing their home tells me, I'm losing my home, what have I done for 9 years? I contacted the Bankers Association and I helped them with their modification. That's the bread and butter of this district. When that young girl tells me, can you help me fill out that application for college? Have I done it? Yes, for 9 years. Would I continue to do that? Yes. Can I legislate like everyone else that has the Congress experience? Yes. I passed over 50 bills. 50 bills that I am very proud of. One bill that says that you should count the inmates at their home address, not at the prison. Okay, that was my baby. First in the nation. A bill that says that you should follow the American Cancer Guidelines when you cover breast cancer, when you do the screening. That was my baby. A bill that says that you should pay attention to childhood obesity. A bill that I supported. This expands Medicaid and coverage for our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is question number 3, and we will start that question with Terrence Strait. Okay. It's a 2-part question. So it starts with, how do you plan to improve the public school system in our county? And how do you plan to improve the job market for the youth and for adults as well?
Okay. So education has always been something that I was very interested in. I took my electives when I was working on my master's degree in psychology was educational psychology. So I'm aware that there are methods of teaching that are different and will work better for different populations. And currently, if you want to go to a Montessori school or any other alternative type of education, you have to go through the private school system, and I don't believe that should be the case. I think that we should be working with our public schools to bring in these alternative forms of education that are going to work better for different types of children, because one thing that we know is that different people have different needs for structure, and trying to put everybody into a single box in terms of how we are teaching them isn't working. And one thing we know is that our current method of teaching, which is just sitting everybody in the classroom and lecturing at them, is the single least effective way to teach. What it is the cheapest way to teach. So that's what I would do. I would try and bring in these alternative methods of education. In terms of job growth, I'm a firm believer that the best way to grow jobs and grow the economy is to have consumers who have more money to spend. I don't believe in trickle-down economics. We've got 30 years of proof that it doesn't work. So first off, raise the minimum wage. I'm a firm supporter of a $15 an hour minimum wage, phased in over the course of several years. But also, we need to invest. As I mentioned earlier, we have a really bad infrastructure. We have just let it fall apart because we haven't invested in it in the way we need to. So as we repair our roads and our bridges and our energy infrastructure and everything else, that will bring jobs to the 4th District and everywhere across the country. Thank you.
I believe firmly that in order to improve our public schools, we need to invest heavily in pre-K education. Today, there are about 25,000 Marylanders, 4-year-olds, who do not have access to pre-K education. As Lieutenant Governor, I led the initiative to expand it to 4,000. When I ran for governor, the goal was to go to universal pre-K. Our current governor has no commitment whatsoever. President Obama does, and again, it's building on that accomplishment to expand pre-K. When 4-year-olds are in pre-K, they then can start kindergarten ready to learn, and studies have shown that improvements in academics over time, career accomplishments improve significantly. So first is major investments in early childhood education. Number 2, I said this a little bit in my opening, not every child is going to the 4-year Bowie State University or Harvard or anywhere else, but they need a skill when they graduate in order to get a family supporting job. We need to invest more in career technology education in our schools. We used to call it VOTEC.
Right.
10 years ago, people were running away from VOTEC. Today, I think because of the recession, we realized that, hey, you know what? There are a lot of allied health professions that don't require a bachelor's degree, but you can support your family. You can't outsource an auto mechanic somewhere to India, and you can make a good living being an auto mechanic. So we need to invest more in career technology education. And finally, we need to make tuition free at our community colleges. Some will go on to the 4-year college. Some will use that as a terminal degree and go on and have a family supporting job. That's how I believe, but all that requires us to increase our investments in education. How do we pay it? We got to tax the wealthiest individuals and the largest corporations. If we do that, we can fund pretty much anything that any of us are talking about up here.
Yeah, my kids have spent a grand total of 50 years in the Prince George's County Public Schools. My wife is actually a graduate of Prince George's County Public Schools too. So there's a lot of positive things going on here, but there's a lot of things we need to accomplish. There's a lot of improvements we need to make. I think really the achievement gap for me is one of the key things that we need to make sure we address. Because if the kids are coming out of school behind, it's hard for them to catch up. And I agree with the pre-K piece, but I would even start earlier. I think that there are communities where the home visit outreach, even with pregnant women and then with newborns, you start reaching out then, because the sooner you start, the better, and the better chance the kid has and being successful in schools. Teachers, I think, we ask teachers to do a lot. In fact, we ask them to do too much, and we don't pay them enough for doing it. And we got to increase their salaries. College graduates, many of them don't want to go into teaching right now. If we want to increase those numbers, we got to increase their salaries, and we got to give them more support in the classroom. Less testing, I think classroom aides would be helpful as well. And then discipline in the classroom. Go visit a local public school and tell me if it looks like the kind of schooling that you got when you went to school. It sure doesn't look like what I got when I was in North Carolina. We got to get back to discipline in the schools, because the teachers can't teach and students can't learn if juniors acting up over there and disrupting the class. Finally, I think on that front, we've got to increase federal funding. We have the proposal about increasing taxes here. We can't keep increasing taxes locally. We've got to make sure that the federal government helps communities like ours pay for the new school construction and the assistance that we need. And it's not just Prince George's. There are thousands of jurisdictions across the country that need that help. For jobs, I think economic development, we've got MGM here, hospitals, new things coming, but we got to make sure that the folks who live here actually get to benefit from the development that's happening here. Thank you very much. So that's a critical piece. Let's make sure that works. Hire locally. The $15 minimum wage is critical too.
I'm inspired by the example of Booker T. Washington. Booker T. was born a slave. Slavery ended while he was still young, but he always knew he wanted to learn how to read. He saw the white people reading. He said, I want to do that because that's the key to a successful career, a successful future. And he walked his way down to Hampton University and then cleaned rooms to pay for his way through college. And then after he got an education, he opened his own set of schools. You may be familiar with Tuskegee University. He started as Tuskegee Normal School. And I've heard Votek mention the idea that we could teach people a trade. And once they have a trade, they can then make themselves useful to society. And then they would then earn what they're worth. Well, that's the ticket to success. This is not a new idea, but we need more of it. For some reason, we've gotten into this mindset that you just go to school, you get a highfalutin degree, and the money's just going to come your way. You've got to be able to put that highfalutin degree to use. All the highfalutin, I've been around the world 2 times. I've been to the best schools in this nation. But all the highfalutin degrees didn't turn into money. So I went into IT, and that was money. I had a high school buddy I used to play football with, and he was unemployed. He was down on his luck. He said, man, what do I do? How do I turn my life around? I said, you need to go get your Microsoft certification. That's where the money is. Today, he's making money. He's employed. So we need more programs like this, and I will encourage it, but we need to understand that nobody up here is running for school board. Nobody up here is running for the state house. Those issues belong to the state and the local government. And our Constitution says that. And I want to make that clear to the people. Education, I didn't go to U.S. public schools. I went to Prince George's County public schools.
Thank you. Well, I could say that all my children went to Prince George's County public schools. They all came out. They all got college degrees. I'm proud of them. The school system is not what it was 40 years ago when they started going to school. It's changed quite a lot, a whole lot, and we're not doing anything to correct it. We definitely have to go back to getting trade schools, a lot of trade schools out there. And I think that every child, when they get to the ages of the 7th grade, they should be given a test called the Ability Potential Test. And that's where they take a test, it's aptitude, ability, potential. Each one of my children took it, and it tells you what you would be good at. It gives you 4 or 5 categories. So if you want to, if it says you're going to be a good electrician or a good carpenter or a good hairdresser, would you be happier in that? Of course you would. Invest some money and do it. Do a sample program. These children deserve that. They don't deserve to be pushed from classroom to classroom with deficient grades just because we've got to free up the seats and get somebody else in there. As far as business goes, Prince George's County, if you come into any major artery other than the Wilson Bridge today, it looks exactly like the first half a mile in looks exactly like it did in 1963. No development, period. The FBI is now looking at a site that I put over in Branch Avenue, the Narrow Road Metro site. I proposed a $2.2 billion development in 1992 to bring 20,000 jobs here. So that's my record.
I definitely believe that we have to get the young children at the pre-K early stage of their life. Certainly, these kids are seeing things. Now, we live in one of the counties supposed to be per capita the highest income making county in the world, really, when you look at African Americans, and then you look at our schools. But I always ask the question, why is it that way? What is it? Is it, yes, we need to have teachers that better pay for teachers. We need to bring in good teachers from other locations. But why is it that a lot of them don't even want to come here? Those are the things that we have to look at. We've got to understand the dynamics of why this district is the way it's set up. I believe certainly in raising the minimum wage, of course, that's a no-brainer. You want to definitely do that. But again, we got enough money coming into this county, so we ask the question again, why? That's what first thing I would do is set up a task force to try to understand what is it? What is it keeping us from living out the fact that we do have such great incomes coming into this area, but our jobs? And why is it that we don't have jobs in these locations? What is happening? Why is it we're not getting the federal spending and the federal dollars that we should be when we send in people to Congress and they're not getting us that money? What's happening? We got to start to understand, ladies and gentlemen, again, the people that we're sending up to Congress, they talk a lot of stuff, but they're not doing anything. And that's what I would do. I would go up there and make a difference because we have the people in this area, we have the finances, we have the income. We should be at the top of the level when it comes down to our students going to school and the jobs. We should be at the top. Thank you.
You know, on December 10, just recently, President Obama signed a huge bill that actually allowed for and called for the amount of testing to be reduced. It also transferred a lot of the decision makings from the federal government back to the locals and to the state, because that's where it should be. And that was the Every Student Succeed Act, and it was teachers were very happy about that. I think that I agree with everything that's being said, but we really need to spend a lot of time with our young kids. We need to make sure that they have choices. College is great, but just like your 5 fingers, they aren't even. College is not for everyone, all right? We want it. I have 3 kids. I want them all to go to college, but I have to realize what they want and what they're capable of. And we need more choices. We need vocational schools. I know in Maryland, I just co-sponsor a bill that calls for pre-K to change the formula so that it can be available to everyone, not just some as well. The other thing that can be done, I know that in Maryland, we put in a commission to slow down the implementation of Common Core, okay? Because teachers were not ready for that. And they put a lot of responsibilities on them. But regarding jobs, Prince George's County is lacking jobs. Okay, people are going to Montgomery County and the federal government to work. We need to invest in our infrastructure. We need to invest in mass transit. We need to invest on our bridges. We have over 5,000 bridges in Maryland that need repair. That's what we need to do. We need to invest in minority businesses, in small businesses, and give them credit so that they can hire people that are disadvantaged. We need to give big corporations incentives to come to Prince George's County. There's no reason why Montgomery County and Virginia should get them all. And finally, we need to bring some of the federal buildings here, like we're doing for the FBI. Thank you.
What would I do to improve public education? You know, this is not a single-pronged approach. First of all, you have to get to the root cause of the issue. And the root cause of the issue is that many of our families don't make enough money. And so we have to create good paying jobs that pay a livable wage. Then we have to make sure that our children have appropriate and adequate food to eat so they don't come to school hungry. You know, if you listen to everybody up here talking about what they've done for public education, we should have the best school system in the country. And that's not the case. So let's be clear. What I would do to improve public education is to, number one, make sure that we're getting our fair share of federal funding. And we can do that through the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act. We can do that through Every Student Succeeds Act. And we can do that through Title I funding, and to make sure that that Title I funding goes to the children that need it the most and not spread around our entire school system. Number two is we have to make sure that we allow our teachers to do what we hired them to do, and that is to teach. We have to stop trying to test our way to success. It is not going to work. That's what I would do when it comes to public education, to make sure childhood education, great Prince George's County, to make sure that our schools are better than they were. You all, we have to make sure that what is being promised. This is about making sure that we have someone that understands the system that can deliver. To make sure that our children are protected in these schools from predators, from people that would violate their innocence. I understand.
Don't want to go home. Okay, so we're going to ask one more question before we ask for the closing statements, because I know you guys are going to be leaving here, going campaign some more and fundraise some more. But I really would like to hear some more questions. Anyway, we'll start with our next question, which is question number 4, and we'll start with Anthony Brown. The question says, since this is such a large district and configured strategically, how will you represent all of your constituents and communities?
Great question. You know, I've had the opportunity to travel myself, just like many of you, and think about your own experiences. And whether I've been in Baghdad in Iraq, whether in South Africa and China, many communities in Maryland, what I find is that people want the same things for themselves and their families, no matter where they live. They want opportunities made possible by a good education. We all want to raise our family in a safe neighborhood with a clean environment, access to quality health care. We all want jobs and opportunities. So that's true whether you're in the rural parts of Anne Arundel County, whether you're in our mature or inside the Beltway communities like in District Heights. That's what families want. And they want a member of Congress who's going to fight for all families. You know, there may be things that differ among families, but we all share the same values. So when I go to Washington, I'm going to be focusing first and foremost on constituent services. It was said before, I agree, that as a first-term member in what will probably be the minority party in Congress, I don't expect to get a whole lot of bills passed. But what I do expect is to go down and ensure that I can deliver constituent services regardless of where you live in the district. That might mean for the student who's showing up at Prince George's Community College waiting to register, but their Pell Grant hasn't arrived yet. For the small business owner who's got all their ducks in order, ready to open the door, but that loan guarantee from the Small Business Administration didn't arrive. The veteran coming back from Afghanistan or somewhere else around the world who's needs that disability rating from the VA, but it just isn't happening. That's constituent services, and regardless where you live in the 4th Congressional District, that's what I'll deliver for you.
The 4th Congressional District is enormously diverse, but diversity doesn't necessarily mean divided. There's a lot of people that have the same interests and the same concerns, and frankly are tired of Congress being so dysfunctional. You know, it's been decades now with Congress being unable to deliver what it's supposed to do, and the political fights where people sometimes seem more interested in just scoring points than actually getting things done. And so I think one of the things I like to try and do is go down there and work to push that in the right direction and get it back on track. And one of the ways I think that we can do that is to try and work to move things in the direction where we're actually focusing on the constituents we've got. And you know, you go around, you listen to people. I don't know Anne Arundel as well, but I'm learning it quickly. And they have a lot of the same concerns about things that we have here in Prince George's. And we need to solve those issues together. But expanding Obamacare, there's so many people that need health care that don't have it. We need to make sure we increase that. Seniors in our community. You know, Jolene's father moved in with us a few years ago. He passed away, but you know, I had a chance to see a lot of the challenges he faced as a veteran with the VA not delivering on the services that he earned. He fought in 2 conflicts. He fought in World War II and then volunteered for ground combat in Korea, and he still couldn't get the services out of the VA that he wanted. So eventually he just gave up on it and went private sector. We've got to make sure that the veterans get what they deserve out of that system. And then for me personally, I'm a cancer survivor, and I know that that's true of people who live in Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County, and others. But I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have the health care coverage that allowed me to get the check that just found the cancer. We didn't know it was there. And if I hadn't had the money, I didn't have the money. If I hadn't had the health care, we wouldn't have found it. Those are the types of basic things that we need to make sure everybody has coverage and protection for, and Congress can help with that.
When I was at sea, we were overseas in Japan, and I had a sailor working for me. His name was Salazar. He had tattoos all up and down his arms. He'd obviously been involved in gang activity. But he had come into the Navy saying that he hadn't done any crimes, and of course, his past caught up with him. And my chief said, "This is a good man, we need him." So I went to bat for him, I defended him. I went all the way up to the captain and I said, "We need to keep this guy in the Navy because he's a good hard worker, and yeah, he had a bad past. Yeah, he's the guy who mugs the little old lady, literally. But he turned his life around. We need to give him a chance." And this sailor said to me, "Why are you helping me?" I said, "Because I care." I said, "Because a simple change of circumstance, your situation could have been my situation." And so, while I led a different life, while I went to the best schools, while I played on the football team, I also played on the chess team. I was also a member of the National Honor Society. We need to be able to see the issues of all of our constituents. We need to be able to advocate for everyone. It's Lent right now. I'm not a Catholic, but I'm fasting for Lent to understand what others go through. And I will understand what everyone in my district is interested in. But furthermore, Prince George's County is where I grew up. Annapolis is where I went to school. And I've been spending the past few years fighting with the Maryland legislature for the rights of people like you. So I will represent the rights of all of my constituents.
Well, my record will stand alone. I have 19,000 docket entries, 110 court cases fighting for the rights and liberties of citizens of Prince George's County, including myself. Everybody talks about constituent services. For 21 years, I've tried to meet with a member of the Maryland delegation. No. Member of the Senate? No. Every member of the Maryland House and Senate? No. 21 years I've been locked out. Now I'm not. In 1980, I put $4 million at Branch Avenue and Suitland Parkway. I built 3 businesses, employed over 240 people in 1984, doing $250,000 a month. I wanted to put a $2.2 billion development at Narrow Road Metro site, would take it all the way up to Branch Avenue to Iverson Mall. I gave the drawings to the U.S. government in a SFO, gave them to Paris Glendenning. I was destroyed. So I know what constituent services is. I go out there every day, walk into court and help people. I walk the walk, I don't talk the talk. I'm the only candidate here who can say I have actually asked for the impeachment and indictment of 70 state and federal judges. And I'm proud of it. You follow the law or get out of office.
You know, the Constitution says that we should seek life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When you talk about constituent services, yes, we have a lot of folks that we, as congressperson, when we go to Capitol Hill, we got to represent. But you can't please everybody. I've learned that. But you can. One thing, what I say about the people is they look around. Everybody understand what fairness and justice is. And that's what really they want. And when you see, my goal would be, is where there's unfairness, where there's some injustice, is that's where I need to center my resources and my energy. And what I'm finding again is again and again, because I know when you're running for office, everybody says everything. We know that, right? And then when they get up there, it's an altogether different thing. For me, I was a board member for Amnesty International. I've always, even when I fought my case, I remember the United States Attorney saying, "Fogg, why don't you just take the settlement money and don't worry about those other people?" He said, "Don't worry about them. You take care of you." And I said, "No, I'm going to go all the way because I'm going to make certain that when they see my name with the Justice Department, they're going to see there was someone who stood up when everybody else was afraid, when everybody else ran." So what I'm asking you is, as a candidate up here, look at our backgrounds. Look at if any of us ever stood for anything. Then that's the person you know when you come into my office, I will do something, even if it means put my job on the line. And that's what I tell people. If I'm just a one-termer, I'll be a one-termer, but you'll know I was there for you. Thank you very much.
I am very proud of my constituency services for the last 9 years. You ask around and people will tell you she works hard, she answers her phone. I give my cell phone every time. I give it out and my staff goes nuts, okay? But I want to hear from you. My staff, when they get an email, they know to respond to it. They know to connect that person, not just say, "Here's the number." I don't like that, I hate it. Make the call, introduce the person, write an email, connect them by email, make it easy. We put it in my office, we put it in red flags, which means that in 2 weeks, you're gonna check and make sure that you follow up. When you call my office and you say, "Hey Jocelyn, I couldn't sign up on the health exchange. Can you call Carolyn Katraki?" I'm calling Carolyn Katraki. And I call her at 10 o'clock at night and I text her. Okay, when I get the call from that gentleman who had a heart attack in his office after he worked for Verizon for 25 years, and he went to the hospital, he went to rehab, and the doctor said, "You need another month," and then the Blue Cross Blue Shield didn't want to pay for it. And I called Blue Cross Blue Shield, but not only did I call him, I went and saw him. I took a picture of him, I sent it to HR, and got him another month. I contacted the senior department to try to get them a loan so that they can put a ramp for him because he will be in a wheelchair. That is what I'm known for. When that kid writes to me and says, "Jocelyn, Delegate Pena Melnick, I did not get into Maryland. Can you write a letter for me?" I make no promises, but I will write the letter and I will make a call. That is what I'm known for. That is, again, what matters, that you're able to make as a congressperson government work for you, and that you do get me and when you call the office. And I promise you that I will have an office in Prince George's County and an office in Anne Arundel County, because I've been representing both counties for 9 years. I know them well.
You know, ask the veteran that is homeless here what constituent services they've had. Ask the seniors that every year their rents are increasing and that they don't have enough money. They have to make a choice between paying for prescription drugs, food, or rent. Ask those women out there that suffer from breast cancer, or cervical cancer, or ovarian cancer. Ask those minority-owned small businesses who stood in the gap for them, who's made sure that they had access and opportunity, who made sure that we did bring home our fair share of federal prime government contracts. Ask them, you know. Ask those college students who every year their tuition increases. And right now we have our students are carrying more than $1 trillion of debt on student loans in this country. Ask our parents and our educators about our public education system. Ask them about what they've seen. You know, this is a very vast district. It includes more veterans than any other district in the state of Maryland. It includes an unprecedented number of seniors and women. And when you talk about, you know, the diversity of the district, you know, we talk about immigration. Immigration is about, you know, Latinos, but it's also about Africans and people from the Caribbean and people that are from Asia or Asia Pacific Islanders. So when we talk about this district and being able to represent this district, as a single dad raising 2 daughters, I understand the fight and the struggle. As a veteran, I understand the fight and the struggle. Having been raised by my grandmother, I understand the fight and the struggle. Ask how many of us stood opposed to the tax increase that the county executive proposed when on houses that are underwater or on foreclosure. Ask how many of us opposed that. Pay attention, please.
I just want to start by saying I think Anthony Brown's answer was amazing. There is so much. We focus on the differences.
Wait a second, he mentioned my name.
We focus so much on how we're different. But, you know, we all want the same things. We want jobs that are fulfilling, that are going to pay us enough to live. We want access to an education. We want health care. We want safe, affordable housing. These are things that all of us want, no matter where you live. I don't care if you live in the middle of the biggest city in the world. I don't care if you live out in the middle of nowhere. These are all things that you want as a human being. So by recognizing the areas that we are the same, while at the same time acknowledging the differences we have, and maybe there are some different paths that we take to get to those goals, I think that's a good way to represent everyone. By seeing everyone as just people who have the same needs and might have different paths to get to those needs. So I'm a fan of single-payer health care. We have 29 million people who are uninsured. We have millions more who are underinsured, who don't go to the doctor. And those people are spread out all over the place. But we need to provide for the people when we can afford to provide for them. And one thing that has been brought up a couple of times is that Republicans currently hold the majority in the House. And I would like to take a page from Senator Bernie Sanders' book, who has maybe not authored very much legislation, but is known as the Amendment King. So even working with Republican majorities, both in the House and in the Senate, he got a lot of very progressive, very important work done. And I would like to follow in those footsteps. Thank you.
Oh, I know everybody's sad now. We're coming to the close, and we're going to ask our candidates to give us a 2-minute closing statement. And that will be the end. But before we end, certainly we want to thank each and every one of you. You guys really did a great job, and it's going to be hard to make a selection. If we could select all of you, we would. So we'll start the closing statements with Glenn Ivy.
Well, I want to thank all of you all for coming out tonight. Thank you for putting this forum on. And I want to thank those of you who are also up here on the panel. I want your vote because I've delivered over and over again. When I first ran for office as state's attorney in 2002, I ran on reducing excessive force and prosecuting excessive force successfully and getting cameras in the interrogation room to stop the false confections that were being pinned on people in Prince George's County. And both of those were accomplished. When I got elected in 2002, we got cameras on the squad cars and we got cameras in the interrogation rooms. And the false confessions issue, it's not gone completely, but we've become really a model in the nation for how to address that concern. And excessive force prosecutions, I was the first prosecutor in Prince George's County to actually get successful convictions against officers for excessive force. One of these officers is serving 45 years in jail now. So I know we've got a problem. It's something that's a national challenge. Anybody that's seen these videos around the country knows how bad it is. But we've gotten started on addressing that, and that was one of the commitments I made on and delivered on. I promised I'd make the community safer and work with the police officers and the faith community to do it. As I mentioned earlier, we had a 45% drop in homicides during my tenure as state's attorney, and a 30% lows, or 30-year lows in violent crime in Prince George's. And we did that in part not only through the prosecution and policing of everything, but as I mentioned earlier, we did intervention and prevention programs. We worked with the faith community. We got reentry programs up and running, tutors and mentors. We did it all without tax dollars. And then on the constituent services piece, because I think it's a critical piece. When I had a chance to work for Senators Sarbanes in particular, who represented Maryland, and Congressman Conyers, I saw what a key piece of work that was and how it can make a difference in people's lives. So I'm out of time, but look, I want to thank all of you all for coming out tonight. My cell is on this card. We'll give it out, but I appreciate the attendance tonight, and I ask for your vote.
Again, my name is Robert Broadus. My website is justiceandliberty.us. You read the preamble to the Constitution, the first thing they promise is to establish justice, and the final thing is to ensure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. So justiceandliberty.us. I am involved in this fight because government wouldn't leave me alone. I'd love to lead my quiet life, but government kept coming in, poking me, say do this, do that, and if you don't do it the right way, we're going to fine you, and if you don't pay the fine, we're going to send you to jail. I'd like people to think about what freedom really is. Because if someone is telling you you have to do something against your will, that somebody in the government is the boss of you and you don't have the option to opt out, are you free? The answer is no. And I'm here to fight for that freedom. I talked before about how I fought against violations of the Constitution in the past. How we keep going to war, how we keep sending our sons and daughters to war. Adventures overseas for whatever those in power want. Maybe to settle personal family vendettas. But who declares war? The Congress. So why can a president send the country to war? It's the Congress who declares war. We need to understand this document. We need to understand the Constitution, because these are the rules that confine our government and make it work for the people. And I will be a fighter for the people. I want to urge you, if you're not a Republican, to consider voting Republican, and I hope you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Well, my name is George McDermott. I just had to change my website because somebody hacked into it, so now I'm using secretjustice.com. If you like that, 1,100 programs up there to educate you. And that's what it's about. I'm out here to educate people. Those videos up there are victims who I have helped and who I am helping. And crooked judges and politicians who I go to court against. And I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of them. You can't go into government and be afraid. You have to stand up for values and right and justice. And my thing is if you don't provide honest services, you've taken an oath of office, resign and get out of office and let somebody else in there who will do the job. That's your responsibility, every one of you. I would like just for 1 second, everybody in here who's not with a candidate, will you raise your hand? Not with a candidate. 1, 2, 3. No, what I'm saying is that's the apathy of our electorate today. Everybody else apparently is with a candidate. So we've got 5 people who raised their hand in this auditorium. What does that tell you about the interest of us in our government? All I can say is I'm here to educate and to spread the word that we need change in government. And I thank you for allowing me to be here. God bless and have a good day.
I was hoping to be last. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your vote. Thank you for listening to us. Certainly, we're running for a major office to run for Congress. Myself, I grew up in this area, and I can just simply tell you one thing. That again, for me, it's about what have we done before we even got to this stage. So I'm just going to simply tell you, just Google my name, Matthew Fogg, and you'll see what I've done. But in the long run, when we're looking at how do we want to represent the people, and that is what you have to look at when we talk about somebody that's willing to stand for you, willing to not just talk it, but walk to walk. And I can sit here and tell you, I've represented people in discrimination matters, lawsuits, as a union worker, as an employee of the government. I've gone around this country. I've gone to Prince George's County. I'm a member of Blacks in Government. I'm a member of, I was on the board of directors of Amnesty International Federally Employed Women. I'm a national vice president. You know, when you start talking about organizations and being a person that's an advocate, that's me. I'm not a politician. I can tell you here now, I'm an activist advocate for the people. And what I believe is that's what we need to start getting people in Congress. We need to get activists, people who are willing to go up to Capitol Hill and say, even if you don't agree with me, I'm going to keep to my principles. I'm going to keep to what I believe in. And what I told you I'm going to deliver on, I will. Certainly we're talking about a lot of issues here in the county. And I agree with a lot of things that have been said here. But the key will be, again, is after we leave here and when you vote for us, will we carry it out? I will carry out exactly what I tell you I will do. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for giving us your time. You could have been anywhere else today, and you came. And thank you for inviting me. Listen, I want your vote on April 26th, but remember that you also can vote early in Maryland. And you should come out early and encourage your friends and family. You should vote for me because I bring a perspective that no one up here brings. Okay? I am a woman. I'm a mother. I am a wife, a sister, a daughter, an Afro-Latina that represents this community. I came here as an immigrant to chase the American dream that values the worth of working hard, that understands working families because that's where I come from. My family and I, my husband and I lived in Prince George's County, and we live here with 3 kids. And we're trying to make ends meet like you do. We have 3 kids that are all 3 in high school. We have a 17-year-old and a set of twins that are 15. Wow. We are going through the whole college process and figuring out how to pay for it, like you are. We're living it. I've been in the legislature for 9 years. I know what it is to put in a bill. I worked hard, whether it's education, whether it's health, whether it's transportation, I have done it. What you want is someone that's going to work hard for you, that's going to be independent, which I have, even when leadership doesn't want it. Someone who's going to be willing to rock the boat, but knows when not to flip it. That is me. And that is what you need. You need someone who's going to keep their word and not worry about what's going to happen to them, okay? If they don't do what their constituent wants. I don't compromise if it's going to harm you. I'm not part of the establishment. I am independent. Go to jpm4forcongress.com. Look at my website. Follow me on Facebook, on Twitter. Look at what I stand for. Someone who's a fighter and someone who's going to have your best interest at heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much for coming out this evening. You know, this is very, very important. It is critically important. You know, you've heard a lot of stuff. Look at the results. Look at the results. Are you better off? Are you paying less for college? Are our seniors getting the services that they deserve? Are our veterans off the streets? Are they not homeless? Are we creating jobs? Is our public education system better? You know, are we lowering taxes or are we raising taxes? Look at the results. And there's been a lot of folks here on this dais with me that has had the opportunity to deliver on public education, has had the opportunity to deliver for our veterans and our seniors, has had the opportunity to deliver for our women. Women still lead the country in the highest number of breast cancer fatalities. Why aren't there better, why haven't we closed the healthcare disparities? Why don't more of our seniors and our residents have healthcare? Pay attention to the results, please. This is about fresh vision and trusted leadership. And I bring that to the table. I bring to the table, understand the women, the issues that are important to women. We have to make sure that we're not just teaching our kids to get a job. We have to create entrepreneurship opportunities. We have to make sure that we're providing our fair share of federal resources to this district and that we're standing boldly for the people that this district was represented for, that this district was established for. I'm not ashamed to stand up here and tell you that this is about black people, brown people, white people, about all of us. But we have to make sure that there's someone that is willing to stand in the gap for the people that are not able to stand up for themselves. Please pay attention that this is about tied to the establishment. Follow the money. Follow the money and see who's beholden to who. Follow the money.
When I started, I spoke about having a destination when you go on a road trip. So I want to share with you a little bit about where I think our destination should be. Imagine a future with abundant clean energy, where we harness solar power, wind, geothermal, and hydroelectric, where that energy allows us to recycle rather than just throwing everything out, where we're not losing our resources to landfills, where automation isn't a threat, but a promise that you don't have to work in a menial job that makes you miserable just to make ends meet, but you can do something following your heart to make this country a better place. You can be an artist, a poet, a musician. You can be an inventor. These are all things that people who come from poverty can't do because they don't have access to those resources. Now, I'm not saying that I can deliver all of this in one term. That would be crazy. But this is a destination that I believe we should be heading towards as a country. Now, with any destination, there's going to be road construction, there are going to be detours. But having that destination in mind means that with every piece of legislation that comes up, I can say, is this what's going to be best for our future? Is this what's going to be best for our children and our grandchildren and generations beyond that? And I think that by looking at the big picture and seeing how issues are interrelated and treating them as part of a whole, I bring a perspective that's different from other politicians. And I hope for your vote April 26th. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me close by saying not what I've done, because all of us up here have done a lot. Go to anthonybrown.com and you'll be able to see that. Let me not tell you what I've done, but why I run. 32 years ago, I received a commission in the United States Army. I had the privilege of serving with patriotic men and women from all four corners of this country. from cities and rural communities and from suburbia, different faiths, different backgrounds and ethnicities. But we were united by this common bond, and that was the love that we had for this country. We did a lot of things together in the Army. We drove trucks, we flew helicopters, we were cooks, medics, mechanics, and every so often, we let ourselves believe that we were part of a noble cause. And that was service to this country. And that was public service to this country. I'm proud of the fact that I've spent 32 years in government, out of government, in service to this country. In 2014, I lost when I ran for governor. People said, why are you running for Congress? And I thought about the lesson that my father taught me and that I am trying to teach my children. I said, sometimes in life, you'll have successes and sometimes setbacks. And sometimes you're gonna get knocked down, because we all do. But if you believe in what you do, whether it's sports, whether it's academics, or whether it's public service, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you stay in it. That's why I'm running, because I'm in it for you, your dreams, and your aspirations. I can't do it alone. I'm asking you tonight for your support and your vote. And together, let's go to Washington so we can deliver for our community back here at home. Thank you very much.
Okay, our candidates have done their